Welcome to Rising Techs, a channel for up-and-coming IT professionals ready to get serious about their career, graduate from the help desk, or fill in the gaps in their understanding of this volatile industry. This is a new series called Top Priority, where we take a deep dive into the most important skills to practice to be a better technician. Most of these skills are general and applicable to other parts of life as well, while some will be more information technology oriented. Today, we talk about documentation. When it comes to business, proper bookkeeping is critical. Information needs to be easily located, intuitively organized, and safely guarded from unauthorized eyes. Documentation in the context of IT is the practice of keeping up-to-date policies, procedures, and configurations for your technology infrastructure. So let's take a closer look at the three active words in the last sentence. So policy. A policy is a guiding principle. It gives a sense of direction to govern how decisions are made and is usually referenced when considering a plan of attack for a situation that doesn't have a clear, proper, best solution. So take the following example into consideration. You are assisting the chief financial officer with his computer. He is currently unable to work because his network card has a driver issue. An alert comes in on your phone signifying an offline server, and it's the one housing a business-critical application. You begin to hear groans emanating from the cubicles down the hall from a whole wing of people who are now unable to do their jobs until this server is brought back online. Luckily, your company believes in good documentation and is prepared for situations like this with clearly defined policy available for your reference. In this policy, your IT department has categorized the different types of tickets that come in and associated a priority level to each category to determine which ticket types get worked on first. Policy clearly states that any C-level executive who raises a support ticket is a high priority, but an application server going offline is critical priority, trumping all other active tickets. In this situation, you apologize to the C-level executive and assure them that you'll return to fix their issue later, and if they protest, you can cite your company policy. Procedure. A procedure is best thought of as a series of steps or specific instructions on how to carry out a more specific task. So consider the following. Alice from the engineering department needs a CAD application updated to the latest version on her computer. The last time an update was attempted on this software on another machine, it failed and required a full reinstall of the CAD software. Luckily, the technician who dealt with this previously was a team player. He installed the application in his test environment and replicated the issue until he found a way to install an update without bricking the whole application. He then goes and writes a procedure called How to Update CAD Application, including screenshots and step-by-step instructions, bolding the important section where the workaround is detailed. Now, every technician can be certain that they are updating the application the correct way, and should the procedure ever change, a technician will update the documentation as well. Configurations. So configurations are officially defined as an arrangement of elements in a particular form, figure, or combination. And in the context of IT, a configuration generally follows suit, but is initially a little bit confusing. So a configuration can be a piece of hardware, software, or a collection of information. If you document a voice-over IP phone with its serial number, its MAC address, the make and model of the handset, this is a hardware configuration. A software itinerary with the software description, the software vendor, the website, the download location, and the software support phone number is a software configuration. A document that you might create with internet service provider information, including the physical modem location or the demarcation location, the support phone number, the circuit ID, and the service level agreement, that would be an information configuration. All of these are vitally important for proper record keeping. So just to recap the difference between a policy and a procedure, let's take a look at how to document the dress code for your IT department. A dress code policy might say you must wear a professional looking polo shirt, khaki pants with a belt, and business casual shoes. If one were to write a procedure for the dress code, it might say, drive to this specific clothing store, purchase this specific striped shirt, and put one arm through each armhole and ensure that it isn't on backwards. A dress code procedure would be silly, obviously, in situations where there are too many variables in play to write specific instructions for each case. A policy with some common sense is the best practice. For specific tasks which need to be done correctly or else something might go terribly wrong, a procedure is obviously the best fit. So policies and procedures both reference configurations as discussed earlier. A proper documentation solution ties all three of these components together and makes information easy to find and contribute to. So let's paint a grim picture. An IT department or managed service provider without proper documentation practices will often find itself scrambling to find information. Customers might ask, "Didn't you just install this application on another computer last week? What's taking so long?" Technicians might hoard knowledge for job security. Disorganization means that every ticket that comes in takes longer to process. The wheel is often reinvented, and this is often indicative of a department or MSP with communication issues as well. And if something critical happens, all these negatives are amplified as stressed technicians desperately look for information that probably isn't documented to remediate an issue that they probably weren't prepared for. So good IT departments and MSPs understand the importance of proper documentation. So let's talk about the pros and cons of certain documentation solutions. Full disclosure, I am not endorsing or sponsored by any products I reference here. So many places will opt for a company wiki. Wiki software, like the one that runs Wikipedia, is often free and fairly simple to initially set up. The editor, however, will often require using tags to create headings, bold text, and creating bulleted lists. This is often really fatiguing to contribute to. So as we approach the year 2020, a "what you see is what you get" editor should be standard, and while some wikis offer this built-in or as a plugin, most wikis fall short when it comes to building relationships between documents as well. Certain platforms like Atlassian's Confluence are dedicated documentation solutions which have sleek page editors, the ability to drag and drop attachments and images directly into the page, and they allow you to assign tags and labels to pages or documents. You can then use these labels to give pages certain attributes, such as engineering software, and then you can click the label to find related documents. The ideal solution, however, is one with integrations into your technology management software or platform. If your company has invested in remote monitoring and management software, such as ConnectWise Automate, Kaseya, SolarWinds, or many others, certain documentation platforms such as IT Glue, IT Boost, or SI Portal will integrate directly into these platforms, allowing you to view a wealth of information from one single source. Your remote monitoring software might have an agent installed on each server which pulls information about CPU usage, memory usage, installed software, antivirus status, IP address information, etc. These statistics can then be replicated into your documentation platform as a hardware configuration for each server. If one of these houses an application, every document related to installing, configuring, administration of, or maintaining this software can then link back to this hardware server configuration. With integration enabled between all platforms, if the IP address or name of the application server changes, the remote monitoring software will detect this change, modify its entry for the server, and then this change will be replicated into the documentation platform, which automates much of the manual work which would otherwise need to be done whenever a change like this is made to a server. The challenge with documentation is a challenge that ripples through many businesses: the time constraint. If you are a managed service provider that serves many customers with many different configurations, billing your services at an hourly rate, it can be tough to find time in between tickets to update documentation to keep track of the organizations you manage. Worse yet, it can be difficult to justify the time spent working on documentation and billing the customer for it, especially if your particular flavor of MSP nickels and dimes for every single billable minute spent. Documentation is an essential part of managing any network. If you are working in an organization that does not allot time for documentation, I would highly recommend trying to change this or finding a healthier work environment depending on how much your company and other technicians resist the change. Documentation is a habit that needs to be held by each technician, and a part of the job responsibilities that need to be enforced by supervisors and management. If you are a young technician looking for ways to improve yourself and show your value, look for holes in your documentation. Take time to polish it up. Proper spelling and grammar are important skills to practice in any business scenario. Establish good documentation habits early on. I hope you enjoyed this video and you were able to gain something from it. This has been Rising Techs, and if you are a rising tech looking to better yourself or your IT infrastructure, be sure to subscribe, leave a rating, and send me a comment to let me know how I'm doing. This is Rising Techs logging out.